Formula One fans, something sensational just happened. Leclerc exploded harshly against Ferrari after Las Vegas GP qualifying. The Monegasque concluded qualifying in 9th position and unleashed all his frustration against a problem Ferrari hasn't solved in 7 years. 7 years! Every time it rains, it's always the same story. Always the same nightmare. Las Vegas qualifying proved anything but simple given the rain that fell on the American track shortly before session start, which inevitably conditioned all teams' work. Leclerc with his SF25 couldn't go beyond 9th position, while Hamilton even finished dead last. But what strikes most isn't the position, it's the Monegasque's harsh outburst. Charles Leclerc's face at the end of chaotic Las Vegas GP qualifying is the face of total despair. In the wet always emerges the same defect Ferrari hasn't managed to solve for years. The Monegasque talked about it in his post-qualifying interview to Sky Sport Formula One microphones, and here are his words that made Maranello tremble. "It's been 7 years we've had this problem now. I don't have an explanation, but it's starting to last a bit too long. Every time it rains a bit, we already know what to expect." Lewis and Carlos, who drove these cars, had the same comments. "It seems we can't use the grip. It's simply extremely difficult to drive, even staying on track. Even without mistakes, I wouldn't have managed to climb up. If I look at the gap, it's difficult to understand. Something doesn't work in the rain. We're trying everything to find a solution. It's frustrating because it's one of my strong points since I was very young. I really hope we'll find something." This declaration is devastating. Leclerc admits rain was one of his greatest strengths in junior categories, but for 7 years he's been at Ferrari, he never found the right feeling again. "Since I arrived here, I never found the right feeling with rain again, and this thing continues. Every time we try different things, but I have no explanations. It's starting to be a bit long because every time there's a bit of rain in the end, we already know what to expect. I always try to forget it and give everything at the wheel, but even today, there was nothing to do." Harsh words testifying to frustration accumulated in 7 years of failed attempts. 9th place at Q3's end is, yes, fruit of an error in the last good attempt, but remains the fact Ferrari once again struggles in wet track conditions, losing ground compared to rivals. A constant that repeated itself even on the slippery city track winding through the strip's lights. The Monegasque authored several long braking moments between turn 12 and turn 14, and had risked being excluded from proceedings already in Q1, as then happened to teammate Lewis Hamilton even dead last in standings. In short, another very difficult day to digest for Leclerc. In the last lap when I was trying to improve, there wasn't much more I could do. So even without the error, I would have been always about a 10th slower compared to my previous time. I don't know if it was really possible to improve, and when I see the gap from the leaders, it's really difficult to understand. Precisely given the rain, therefore Ferrari had to increase aerodynamic load on the car. Let's remember the team even tried in the last free practice session, Monza's extreme wing, but that inevitably wasn't mounted in qualifying. As stated by Leclerc, this will make him more vulnerable in the race and at the same time will also complicate any potential comeback. The race? We increased aerodynamic load a bit, so it will be complicated. I think it will be better for tires, but it will be very difficult to overtake or defend. I remain optimistic. Performances were good. All weekend on dry. But it's clear the optimism is forced. Disappointment is palpable. And all this arrives after 2 weeks of controversy for President John Elkann's words, who had invited drivers to talk less and concentrate more on driving. Leclerc returns to expressing certain frustration precisely at the worst possible moment. In the wet, we simply never have the pace. I don't know why. It was always one of my greatest strengths in junior categories, but for 7 years I've been here at Ferrari, I've tried to do everything to solve the problem. 7 years of attempts, 7 years of failures, 7 years where one of his generation's most crystalline talents in the wet has been wasted by a car that simply doesn't work. And it's not only Leclerc complaining. Lewis and Carlos, who drove these cars, had the same comments. This means the problem isn't the drivers, but structural to the car. It's not a driving style question. It's not an adaptation question. It's precisely the car that doesn't work in the rain. It seems we can't use available grip. Ferrari in the wet becomes a bar of soap impossible to control. It's simply extremely difficult to drive. Even staying on track becomes an enterprise. And this for a driver of Leclerc's caliber is unacceptable. It's frustrating because it's one of my strong points since I was very young. Imagine Leclerc's frustration. He arrives at Ferrari as reign champion in junior categories, and for 7 consecutive years never manages to express this natural talent. I really hope we'll find something, but after 7 years of failed attempts, hope starts wavering. Every time we try different things, but I have no explanations for the car's poor wet performance. This story is starting to be a bit long. Every time there's a bit of rain in the end, we already know what to expect. A Ferrari that floats, that doesn't bite, that doesn't give the driver confidence. To conclude the rain discourse, next year Ferrari will have the occasion to restart from zero with regulatory changes, thus hoping after years to return competitive even under this particular condition. It will be Leclerc's last chance to rediscover that rain talent that made him special in junior categories. But after 7 years of unfulfilled promises, after 7 years of failed attempts, after 7 years where every time it rains we already know what to expect, confidence starts running low. I always try to forget it and give everything at the wheel, but even today there was nothing to do. Words sounding like surrender, like admission the problem is bigger than them. When I see the gap from the leaders, it's really difficult to understand. And this is perhaps the most worrying aspect. They don't even understand why the car doesn't work in the wet. They don't have a clear technical explanation, don't have a solution in sight, continue trying different things, but without results. Something doesn't work in the rain, we're trying everything to find a solution. But trying everything without clear direction means groping in the dark. And after 7 years of darkness, Leclerc's frustration is more than understandable, it's sacred. This Leclerc outburst arrives at the perfect moment, right after Elkan's words asking drivers to talk less. Instead, Leclerc talked, said the truth, expressed all his frustration for a chronic problem Ferrari can't solve. And he was right to do it. Because fans deserve to know, deserve to understand, why one of his generation's purest talents in rain is being wasted for 7 years. They deserve to know why, every time it rains, Ferrari suddenly becomes uncompetitive. They deserve the truth. And the truth is, Ferrari has a structural problem in the wet lasting 7 years and despite all attempts hasn't yet been solved. This is Leclerc's sensational outburst after Las Vegas qualifying.